With us, we have Sean McMahon. He is the Business Development Manager of the Sage Intacct practice, and Mary Beth Gossert, who is also a consultant and has a history with the Sage 100 product, which is really awesome. So her education on the product and why clients make the switch make this webinar super valuable today. So we're really excited. And so just to recap on the agenda, we're going to begin with an overview and then move into the product comparison overview. And there, after that, we have the Sage 100 versus Intacct live demo, and we'll address any questions that come up throughout with an interactive Q&A at the end. And with that, I think we're ready for you, Sean.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Like Kimberly stated, we are going to start out with a little bit of an overview about DSD and who we are. Not that you don't necessarily know who we are, but it's always good to repeat some of these things and maybe reintroduce ourselves for some of those who aren't familiar. So we always revere to this slide as our trophy room. These are some things that we're very proud of. We're proud of the over 9,000 businesses that we have served, over the 5,000 custom implementations, 45 offices throughout North America, and 36 years in business. And we're gold certified in several different departments. And part of this was the reason that Sage came to us and asked us to take a look at Sage Intacct. And once we did, we were really excited about the power that this solution can bring to our customers, and really excited to be able to show you guys a little bit more about that today. As I alluded to, we are a very decorated partner when it comes to Sage, and this speaks to the strong relationship that we have. Sage's corporate team is very involved in the things that we do. We have constant communication with them, and all this speaks to the strong relationship and synergy between Sage Intacct and DSD. So we wanted to spend a little time talking about why cloud matters. I know a lot of people have some conceptions about the cloud and what it may be and what it may mean, but really when it comes down to it, it's just where your data is housed. And in 2017 IBM report noted that 90% of the world's data has been generated in the past 2 years. We've all seen with COVID, there's remote workforces now. A lot of people are working from home. I'm doing it myself right now. And it presents some unique problems in terms of collaboration and transparency of information. You also know that your organization needs to minimize costs because these economic hardships, once again, as we've seen with COVID, put a lot of pressure on the bottom line. Rules and regulations are constantly shifting. That means you need to stay compliant. And that means that your reporting requirements are constantly shifting as well. And you need a system that's malleable and flexible enough to be able to keep pace with that. And there's also something that, it's been increasingly on the mind. We've noticed it with a lot more of our customers coming through, and that's ransomware attacks. Increased security is and you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more security in where your data is housed if it's in the cloud as opposed to it being on premise. As we continue with the conversation, I think it's also important to consider that there are some ongoing costs that you face with on-premise software that are not the same. So we always look at this as the iceberg slide. And what this really does is to illustrate that, yes, some of the subscription fees involved in the cloud might be a little bit more than you're facing with an on-premise solution, but it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. 9% of your costs are going to be applied in terms of software licenses with an on-premise software, but it doesn't really take into account all the fixes, patches, and upgrades that need to be applied. Doesn't take into account system downtime, performance tuning, rewriting customizations and integrations as your software changes and gets upgraded. And that really creates an ongoing burden on your IT department. So we really want to make sure that you're not just factoring in the face value costs of the software licensing versus subscription fee, and that you're really taking into consideration all of the costs that are really involved with you having that software and keeping it maintained and up and running. With a subscription type and a cloud-based model, and really you're only looking at the annual subscription fee. The annual support is typically rolled into that fee, and consulting is really only as requested. So once you've got the product implemented and up and running, there's really not a lot of support, not a lot of consulting work that you're going to need to have done. So we want you to make sure that you're factoring that into your overall costs. So now we wanted to move into something that we know is going to be near and dear to your hearts and do kind of an overview and comparison between Sage 100 and Sage Intacct. It's always good to take a step back and think about what Sage Intacct is. Sage Intacct is a 100% cloud-based financial management platform designed by and for financial leaders. It's got best-in-class scalable applications. You can access it from anywhere on any device as long as it's got an internet browser. It's true dimensional accounting. And we'll get into a little bit later the power of that, what that can really bring to your organization. It's multi-company, multi-entity, multi-currency, multi-tenant. It's driven by dashboards, real-time with drill-down capability to give you true insight into your data. It's got integrations that don't break with upgrades. And this is something that's really important because I'm sure a lot of you have been staring down the barrel of a pricey upgrade to Sage 100. There's automatic free upgrades every quarter, so you no longer have to factor that into your equations when you're doing your ERP budget. Those just roll out. They come out at 5 p.m. Pacific time on a Friday. And when you come in, all those great new features are already there, and they're constantly putting new features and functionality into the software. So it's always neat to see how that's going to affect you when those releases come out and what it can open up for you. And these are all reasons that Sage Intacct is the AICPA endorsed #1 customer satisfaction cloud-based accounting solution. And there's really a great community that's building around Sage Intacct. We're actually going to be able to meet with some of them over the course of the next week in Las Vegas at the Sage Intacct Transform Conference. And we'd love to be able to invite one of you to attend in the future. And there's a virtual component. So if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about that and maybe getting a chance to pop into the sessions next week, please let us know and we'll be happy to get you some information and see what we can do about getting you a pass for that. So now as we move forward a little bit into Sage 100 and Sage Intacct and what each of them bring to the table, we wanted to highlight that the user licensing is a little bit different. With Sage 100, it is a concurrent license. With Sage Intacct, as it's cloud-based, it has a named license. And what that does is it enables us to allow and restrict access to different modules, different accounts, different things within the GL, different rights and permissions. It really gives us a handle into who's doing what within the system, as opposed to a concurrent license where you just have to kind of make it general and fit for a wide group of people. The pricing options, there's a subscription option available with both. Updates typically happen biannually with Sage 100, and they're quarterly with Sage Intacct. The ease of upgrade, it's definitely, it's kind of a parallel upgrade with Sage 100. You do have some system downtime that you have to account for, and it's more of a strategic planning thing, whereas with Intacct, it's just automatic, it happens, and you wake up and come into work on Monday morning and you get all those new features. Programming backend, ProvideX and SQL is kind of the backend of Sage 100, whereas Intacct is a little bit more complex and powerful in that it uses Linux, Apache, Oracle, and PHP. You access Sage 100 through a client server or a remote desktop connection, whereas you would access Intacct off of any web browser on any device. They both have workflow approval capabilities, although it's usually in the form of an add-on with 100. Whereas opposed to Intacct, that's just something that's built in the product, just like process flows. And then, import capabilities, visual integrator and scripts work, but sometimes you need a little bit of help to get those going. Whereas with Intacct, once we've created an import template for you, it's really kind of plug and play. You take a CSV, an XML, or even an Excel document, and as long as we've got that set up for you, you just drag it, you drop it, and your data goes in. Probably walk around for a second, maybe refresh your coffee, and then it's there for you to work with afterwards. As we're moving on, and Mary Beth is going to touch on this a little bit more in much better detail, but just wanted to kind of put this in your head again, that with Sage 100, you're working with a natural segment, kind of a traditional GL string, whereas Intacct uses your natural. You still have the ability to use your traditional accounts, but it adds the concept of dimensions. And what dimensions really do is open up a whole world of reporting capabilities and different ways that you can manipulate and view your data. Both products can do multi-company, multi-entity. Sage 100 has an intercompany ability via the form of an add-on or maybe even a DSD enhancement, whereas that's something that Intacct does natively. There's also multi-currency add-ons or enhancements for multi-currency, whereas Intacct handles that naturally. Same with multi-book. Sage Intelligence is built in, and Intacct handles it a little bit differently. Whereas there is Sage Intelligence, it's something that is in Sage 100. It's really kind of integrated throughout the Intacct product. And once again, Mary Beth will be able to show you a little bit more about that as well. Both have the ability to do budgets. We may need a third-party add-on in order to be able to do that budget sharing and do a collaborative budgeting process with Sage 100, whereas there is a native Intacct module that will do that and do it all seamlessly and integrate that budget into your financials. And then there is the ability to do some forecasting and versioning, basic, very kind of rudimentary in Sage 100, where it's much more full-fledged and full-featured in Sage Intacct. And then we talk about project accounting. Sometimes you have more complex needs based on the way your business is structured. If you're doing project accounting, doing ASC 606 or contract billing, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do in Sage 100. We haven't really found a great way to get that done. Whereas in Intacct, that is something that's built in. It's not built-in revenue recognition for Sage 100, but it is in Intacct. Both of them have the capability of doing time and attendance. Both of them have the ability to do distribution kitting and some lot tracking and serialization. It, to be honest, has not been built out to the same length in Intacct, but you can rest assured that that's a feature that is on the roadmap and will be coming out in a future release. And as we talk about manufacturing, realistically, in order to make any kind of manufacturing process sing in either, you're going to need to have some form of add-on. It's not really built into Sage Intacct. Intacct is really focused on being more of an accounting platform and leaving things like manufacturing over to somebody that does it best. And so there's a lot of different third-party add-ons that can do it in both. There is a component of field services available in 100, whereas you would want to use a third party. And really, when we're talking about using a third party add-on with Intacct, that's something that has a pre-approved integration with Intacct, guaranteed that the integration will never break through any upgrade or update that comes through with Intacct. Part of them being able to have their status as an Intacct approved marketplace partner is the fact that they are constantly vetting it out and making sure that any new releases of Intacct come through aren't going to have any effect on your ability to use the product. There's Sage CRM for, and we're talking about key add-ons, kind of on that same line. There's Sage CRM for 100. Sage Intacct prefers to use Salesforce, which we know is kind of an industry standard as far as CRM platforms go, and the two systems play together really well. Avalara is available with either. You'd be looking at Scanco or Scanforce to do warehouse management with 100. And Scanforce is still around. Scanco is to some extent with Intacct. And there's also another player called QStock, which is a really neat solution, and we'd love to be able to show you more about that if you're interested in learning more. E-commerce, you'd be looking at ROI or website pipeline with Sage 100, and then there's a whole universe of e-commerce platforms that will work with Sage Intacct. And really, kind of the key thing that we come down to is that there's an AICPA endorsement with Sage Intacct that isn't available with 100, and honestly, not a lot of other accounting platforms in general. It's a very special endorsement, one that we're very proud of. Now, I'm sure, as we're looking at this, you may say, okay, well, that's great. Some of these things are relevant to me, but not necessarily relevant to my industry. Realistically, there are a lot of different industries that can work with Sage Intacct, and this is just a sampling. We've got a lot of experience working with healthcare and nonprofits, hospitality, franchise organizations, construction. We've seen all of these work and be really successful with Intacct. So just because you're thinking it might not be a fit due to the industry, I would still encourage you to reach out to us and have that conversation, because you might be surprised at some of the things that we can do for you. And I know I keep beating this AICPA drum, but once again, we're really proud of it. It's the first and only preferred provider of accounting applications. Nobody else can say that. And one of the primary reasons is because of the audit trail. I'm sure some of you experience in Sage 100 where you have to reverse a transaction or there's an error. It creates a problem. You have to do some balancing transactions as well, and it's just not something you have to worry about with Intacct. That doesn't mean, though, that you just have keys to the kingdom and you can do whatever you want. There is an audit trail provided. You'll be able to see who has made a change, and it really gives you that comfort level in knowing that, yes, some changes may go on. There's an ease of the ability to audit and edit those transactions, but nobody will ever be able to go in and say, why did this happen? You always have a record of who did it, when they did it, and they have the ability to put in notes so they can explain why they did it. And that's a very powerful thing, especially at audit time. You just don't have to worry about those things. So I wanted to kind of wrap up my portion and get you over to the good part, just talking a little bit about a Sage 100 to Sage Intacct customer story, because we're really proud of this. And I think it's a great example of the power that the Intacct solution can bring to a Sage 100 client. Mobscene is a 140 employee full service creative agency. They produce trailers, creative content, a lot of things that you've seen on TV there behind and you wouldn't even really know it. As a result of them switching over from Sage 100 to Sage Intacct, they were able to remove 50% of their accounting admin burden. They were able to do self-service reporting, which means that if you're a controller or CFO or accounting manager, you don't have to worry about director of a particular department asking you for information, or somebody above you asking you to go dig this up, because they have the ability to go find it themselves. You can configure reports and dashboards for anybody within the organization, and they have the ability to go through and find the information for themselves, which is empowering for them and a time saver for you. And it basically allowed Mobscene to avoid $200,000 in consulting costs. So that's huge. I'm sure we could all use $200,000 to our bottom line. It closed their month-end close. It shortened that by 60%. And that's days that they're getting back, and days that your accounting team is no longer worried about closing out the books, and they can focus on going forward and maybe actually doing a little bit of analysis. They're able to also drop their cash forecasting variance by 3%. And 3% doesn't necessarily sound like a big number, but it can be huge. 3% could be somebody's job down the road. So it's important to consider all of those things. And just wanted to close with a quote from Brett Abbey, who's the CFO over at Mobscene. Said, with our old system, it's cumbersome, slow to report how the business performed in a prior period, but by using Intacct, we can dissect the data, roll it up in different ways so we better understand the dynamics surrounding our profit models, our customer project margins, project genres, and team resources. Today, finance leads the business with timely, pertinent insight into where we're going, and we have strategic conversations that drive a more efficient and collaborative organization. So we thought that was really powerful. We wanted to make sure to share that with you. So I'm going to pass it over to Mary Beth now, and she's going to talk a little bit about consolidations in Sage Intacct. Mary Beth?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today about consolidations in Intacct. So what you need to know about Intacct is that it was written with consolidation, multi-entity, and multi-currency at its core. So we're just going to go through real quick a couple slides about that, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of my demo. So just a few facts about people who have switched to Sage Intacct using multi-entity consolidation. So I felt like this was very powerful when I read this, that 58% of companies manually reconcile their intercompany accounts. That's crazy to me. And only 22% of US companies use software to reconcile their intercompany accounts. People who switch to Intacct, who are multi-entity companies, cut their close time down by 65% and increase their productivity by 25%. So I think those are very, very powerful numbers. So in Intacct, we have two different consolidation methods. The company that I'm going to be showing you today is a global consolidation company, but Intacct has the ability to do a domestic consolidation, which is used for multi-entity shared companies with a single base currency, or global consolidations, which is used for multi-entity shared companies with multiple base currencies. So the consolidation process, and I'm going to show it too, will translate from the base currencies to one consolidated reporting currency. And this is just a little graphic about the difference between the two. When we have multiple business units or entities, we're going to do a domestic consolidation when there's a single accounting currency. They have to have a shared corporate structure and shared chart of accounts. The multiple business entities with reports and multiple currencies, there needs to be 100% ownership, and also we need to have that shared chart of accounts. So in Intacct, this is just a little illustration of what's going on. We create a corporate consolidation book. We have a company that is doing the inter-entity eliminations, and then we roll all of our different entities in Intacct, including the inter-entity eliminations entity, into our corporate consolidation book. And we're going to translate from the functional currencies of the entities to the reporting currency in the consolidated book. So what are the benefits of this? Obviously, we're going to save hours. And I'm going to show you how Intacct actually automates the inter-company due to, due from process when we're doing transactions. We automate the currency conversion and accumulated adjustment, translation adjustment, the elimination of the inter-entity receivables and payables, and we're going to get real-time visibility into eliminations recorded as journal entries, and we can actually drill right down into the transactions for that. So your financial statements will be audit ready very quickly. You're going to be able to drill down to your transaction so you can look at each entity and know exactly where the items came from. And you can create as many consolidated books as you would like. So in my demo company, I have a couple of different ones, and I'll show you that. And you can have multiple budgets and multiple consolidated views. All right, so I think we're gonna let's see. And I messed it up again.
It's okay. We can see your desktop right now, Mary Beth.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted it to be a different desktop, but that's okay. I'll just bring this over here. Can you see it? It's like not.
So we can see your browser window, but it's quite small. It's maybe 2 inches high.
Hold on. There we go. Here we go. Can y'all see my Skyline company?
Yep, got it.
Okay, perfect. So this is my demo company. This is Skyline. It's one of the demo companies that we have with Intacct. This is my dashboard. This is my consolidated dashboard. This is where I have all my consolidated reports, and these are great. I'm just going to scroll down really quickly so you can see them. I'm going to come back to this at the end because right now I wanted to show you how I got there. Okay, so in Intacct, what we do is we create all our entities. Now this is very different from Sage 100. Okay, in Intacct, we transact at what's called the top level. Here it is right here. Okay, that is over all of your different operating entities. In Sage 100, all your entities are a company code. For Intacct, all your different operating entities are an entity in Intacct. We can actually transact down at the different entity levels if we want, or sit up at the top. All the consolidation is happening at the top, so I'm going to be working in the top today. But you can see that I have multiple entities here with different base currencies. When I set up my company, I go into my inter-entity account mapping, and hopefully you can see that. There's a lot going on here. What is this telling Intacct? This is a very, very important screen in Intacct when we're doing consolidation. What it's saying is if entity A, which is 100, has a receivable from entity B, which is 200, my general ledger account is 12,900-200. This is the only place in Intacct where we have subaccounts. That is it. That's the only time we ever use subaccounts, is when we're trying to identify our inter-entity receivables and payables, so that when we are looking at our financial statements, we know who owes what when we're looking at the top level. Then I have if entity 100 owes entity 200, then I have my liability, and again, it's dash 200, so I know that I owe it to entity 200. So this is a very important screen because this is what Intacct uses to come up with my inter-entity entries as I am transacting down in accounts payable and also in the general ledger. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an AP bill. So let me go into the accounts payable. All right, so this is my AP bills. And oops, I created this bill here. Okay, so I have my bill date, my due date as I'm coming down. I have my transaction currency is in US dollars. And what I did was I hit my professional expenses for $50. I tagged my department, which is a dimension of 300, my location of 100. Then I went down here to my professional expenses again. I put in my $60, my department of admin, but for location 200. So now I have two expenses, one coded to my entity 100 and one coded to my entity 200. Okay, and I'm just going to open this up for a second here because Sean was talking about dimensions, and I did, Sean and I and Kimberly did a lunch and learn a couple of months ago about dimensions, but I'm just going to show you when I'm in accounts payable and I am doing data entry, I can tag all of my different dimensions. I can tag my class, my customer, and AP probably not, but vendor, employee. So if I have my employees loaded in there as a dimension and maybe I'm recording travel expense, I can actually tag that employee dimension so I can run a report to show all the expenses that were done, that were charged by a particular employee. I can also do item, project, warehouse, task, and also my contract. Those are all my dimensions that I can tag when I'm putting in this piece of data. And then if I tag them, then I can report on them later. Okay, I'm just going to go up to the top here and just show you this bill was already paid and it was printed on check 1. I'm just going to open up check 1. Okay, here are my two different transactions. You can see location 100, location 200. As I go across, this was the bank account for location 400. All right, so this is just a little example that I created so I could show you what happens when we pay this from one entity and we charge it to the other two. All right, I'm gonna go to my report and I will run it this way. Okay, so here's a memorized report that I have. This is just a general ledger report that I had where I memorized my transaction date so it would be easy for me to find for you today. I'm just gonna click OK. And what happened? So you can see that my due to entity 100 has a charge in it from some other test that I did. But down here you can see my due to entity 400 has a $50 charge and a $60 charge, one from USA 1 and one from USA 2. I didn't have to do anything. I just actually cut the check. Intacct went and looked at my inter-entity account mapping and actually created this journal entry for me. So this also happens in the general ledger when we are doing journal entries. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to show you quickly a journal entry that I did. In my general journal. Okay. Okay, so I created this journal entry. This has a couple of different things going on, so we'll show you. So when I entered my journal entry, I just put my location in, location 100, location 200. I grabbed my different departments. I put my general ledger accounts on here and put my amounts on here. But what I did was, can you see this where this says source entity here? That means that I have to have an intercompany transaction between entity 100 and entity 200 because of this journal entry. So when I finished my journal entry and I hit post, Intacct did this. I didn't do anything. Intacct just read my inter-entity account mapping that I had created at the beginning, and it put this in here, and it posted this along with this journal entry here. Okay, and you may be wondering, what in the heck is this over here? This is the GL outlier detection that runs in the general ledger. It takes advantage of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and it runs on the general ledger, and it looks at your journal entries for anomalies, and then it gives you some little clues about what is going on with the journal entry, why it doesn't like it. So this is saying to me over here, I can't see it, this account with this amount is unusual because it's very, very big. And then this amount is unusual. So this is just a test, and I actually was trying to get the GL outlier detection to work. So that's why it's kind of big and a little weird, but this is just an example of an inter-entity transaction and also the GL outlier detection. Okay, so now we've had some inter-entity transactions. Let's talk about the consolidations. Now I'm going to show you the global consolidations page because this is a global consolidation company, but the domestic consolidations were pretty much the same, except for we don't have to worry about the multiple currencies. Okay, so this is the global consolidations module itself. So in here, we set up our multiple books, we run the consolidation, and we have some reports that are associated with it. So like I said before, you generally perform your global consolidations against your wholly owned entities and locations that use the same chart of accounts structure. So when I go in to set up my global consolidations, I have to set up different books. So I'm going to go in here. So you can see that I have multiple ones. So I have my global, I have my non-US, and then I have my North American. So I don't have to just do one consolidation. I can consolidate different entities at will. So I'm just going to open up my global so I can explain to you what goes on in here. So when we set this up, it's asking me, what's my currency? What's my net income account? What's my net assets account? And then what entities do I want to consolidate? So this is consolidating everything. And then do I have an elimination adjustment account? I put that here. And then what dimensions would I like to consolidate? So for this, I'm consolidating my location and my department. I could choose any of my other dimensions if I wanted to. And then what journals am I associating with the consolidation? So I can create different journals to do that. And then accounts to override. Okay, so I do not want, if I don't do this, then Intacct is going to take my spot rate and apply it to all my accounts. So for accounts where I want a historical rate, I have to note them in here. So these are my fixed asset accounts that I'm noting in here. because I want them to always be at the historical rate. I don't want Intacct to continually revalue them every single month based on currency rates. And then, do I have any elimination accounts? If I do, which I do, I put them in here. And then if I have any additional intercompany receivables or payables, I would put them in here. Any other accounts that I want out of the that I want for elimination, I have to put them in. And then I am ready to go out here and I can actually run my consolidation. So what does that mean? When I'm going to run my consolidation, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my book that I'm going to consolidate. So here are my 3 books that I had before that I showed you. What period of time do I want to run the consolidation for? And then what entities do I want to run the consolidation for? So I would just click the box at the top. It's going to consolidate all of this. I hit consolidate. It's going to run the consolidation. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't take very long, but I don't want to slow us down here because we don't have a ton of time. I can actually schedule this to run, so I can create a recurrence and have it just continue to run. So I may want to run it every week, every other week, so that I have up-to-date numbers. I can run it however often I want. I can run it once a month if I'd like to, or I could just come in here, hit the consolidate button, and it'll run. For a company that only has these few entities, it's only going to take a couple minutes. You know, like Sean said, go refresh your coffee, come back, and it's done. Okay. And then I do have a few reports, but I'm going to show them to you on my dashboard. So let's go to my dashboard. Oh, let's go to my dashboard. Okay, in Intacct, one of the great things about Intacct is their reports and the ability to put them on dashboards. So you have them all in one place. I really, really like that. I love dashboards. I show dashboards all the time. I love scorecards and all that stuff. Coming from Sage 100, I felt like I didn't really get that. So if we have time at the end, maybe I'll just show you some cool stuff that I like. But this is my consolidated balance sheet. This is the global in US dollars, right? So I'm consolidating in US dollars. And you can see I have all my entities going across with a total. And if I want to drill and I want to see what makes up this cash and cash equivalents, I just click on it. It comes up. I can see all my different checking accounts. If I want to know what makes up the balance in here, anywhere in Intacct where you see blue, it's drillable. And so we can keep drilling and drilling and drilling. So I'm just going to click on this. Here's my general ledger report. And I can actually drill all the way down into the transactions. Here is my journal entry. And then I can come back, and I'm back in my dashboard. I also have a consolidated P&L for all my different entities. And you can see now that I'm down in the P&L, you can see I have an ending spot rate here. I don't know if you can see that. And then I have the weighted average rate right here for my non-US dollar entities. And then if I come down here, then this is my P&L for my my non-US companies, and this is actually in British pounds. So you can see United Kingdom, that ending spot rate is 1, but Australia and South Africa, we have to translate. And then this consolidated P&L over here is just for North America. And again, anywhere that I have the blue, I can go ahead and drill down and view my numbers. So let's just talk a little bit about our exchange rates, just so that I know some of you who have multi-currency probably have questions about that. So the currency rates in Intacct, they're baked in, they're automatically brought into the system from Awanda's live exchange rate table, which saves you time and increases the accuracy of the exchange rate. As transactions are entered and posted, the exchange rate is tracked for reference in the reports and later for the unrealized gain and loss of your foreign currency transactions. And as you can see, we're automatically putting this into our reports. So I've shown you how Intacct can assist you in automating your consolidated reporting process and very, very quickly. I'd love to show you more if you'd like to, but we accomplish this through the use of our flexible dashboards, our dimensional reporting, our independent reporting books, our automated eliminations, and our scheduling options. So Kimberly, do we have any questions so far?
Actually, yeah, there were a couple that came through. One question was, is there a payroll?
Is there payroll in Intacct? Okay.
In Intacct, yeah.
In Intacct, okay. Well, that is one of the things with Intacct, we don't do the payroll in Intacct. We have marketplace partners that we work with that are specialists in payroll. And then we can either, we can import the payroll information in as a journal entry. We can actually import it into the time and expense module in Intacct, so we can keep track of time on projects, but Intacct does not do payroll inside of it because of the theory that we're going to use the best in class for everything, and so we use our marketplace partners who are the best in class for payroll.
Okay, great. And so another question came through, how long does implementation take?
Our implementations take, we like to do an implementation that takes, they're usually about 3 months, give or take. I'm going to be starting one that we're going to do in 2, but I feel like that's really quick. It takes us about 3 months. You work with either myself or Laura, who's the other senior implementation consultant in the Intacct practice. And we have meetings at least once a week, and we have design sessions. And if you're coming from Sage 100, what you need to know is that we have a tool that was created by our own Jim Woodhead, who, and he actually is the one who does most of it, where he actually can pull the historical data out of the Sage 100. Once we give him a mapping table, he can go ahead and do that. And so it makes the implementation much easier for us and for you.
Okay, great. Another one just came through. How hard is it to build a report in Intacct?
So to build a report in Intacct, we can do it. We have 2 different report writers out of the box. So the reports that you're looking at on my screen right now currently are actually ones that that came right out of the box from Intacct. I really didn't have to do a lot with them, but it's much more straightforward. Let's open up, we can open up this one. Okay, so this is the financial report writer behind this report. And our reports are kind of, they remind me of the thought process of FRX, but they're not like FRX at all. But the thought process of, okay, how am I going to come up with my rows? And then how am I going to come up with my columns? So these are our rows. All our reports are based upon account groups that we create in the general ledger. And when we do an implementation, the first thing we're going to ask is for your chart of accounts, and we populate that onto a template, which is then quickly imported into Intacct. But each general ledger account must have a category to it. That's how Intacct knows what account group to put that general ledger account in, so that we can immediately start to run reports. So these are account groups in here, and then we have our columns. So this one is just the account name, and then we have the periods, and we can get right here, we're doing all levels with roll up, which is how we're getting all those different entities. And we can also, when we're on the rows, if we wanted to do a report that is based on the dimensions, we can actually make groups of the different dimensions, like maybe groups of locations or groups of customers or groups of vendors or groups of projects. And we can put them on the row structure, and then we can report on them. Maybe we want to do revenue by the top 10 customers. We create a group that's all the customers. We put them onto the report, and we tell Intacct, I just want to see the top 10. So the reporting is very flexible, and it's pretty easy to use. I find it to be easier than Sage Intelligence, and I know Sage Intelligence. So I hope that answered your question.
Great. Yeah, I think that's all of the questions I saw come through. If anybody has additional questions, you're welcome to respond to any of the emails you've received or put them in the chat. Mary Beth, we do have maybe 5 more minutes before we should actually close. Is there anything you maybe want to touch on from a comparison perspective?
Sure. I mean, we're coming out with our new release, right? So you can see right here, coming soon, release 4. So release 4 is coming the end of next week. Like Sean said, we go home on Friday, and then we come back on Monday, and we're all on the new version. And so I just have to say, because I know that a lot of you are Sage 100 users, and I was a Sage 100 consultant for 18 years. I'm aging myself, and I did mostly support for maybe the first 8 to 10 years. And I love a good error 47. I do. But when I started using Intacct, they said it just works. And I'm like, but does it really work? It really does. It just works. It's really cool to be able to get use of the new features right away. And we don't really have to do anything. If we go in here and just look, these are the release notes of what's coming. We have like a video from Julie Adams, who's like the cutest little thing ever. And she just talks about all the different stuff that's coming in the new release. And we can read it down here. It groups it by our modules of what's coming. And I'm excited for some of the stuff that's coming in the new release. So that's that. And let me just show you my general ledger a little bit while we have a little time. Because we use dimensional accounting, this is my chart of accounts, okay? So my chart of accounts is only my main, what would be my main segment in my Sage 100 general ledger account. That is my chart of accounts. And then what I do is I use the dimensions to tag all the information that I want to capture, whether it's the entity, the location, the department, the customer, the vendor, the employee, the task, the item, all of those things I tag when I'm entering the transactions, and then I can report back out on them. So let's just show you one more dashboard, and then I will let you go because I know that you're all busy. And if I tag all of those dimensions, I can get this company that you're looking at here is a service company. So I'm able to get scorecards with chargeability, but you can see I have all my operating expenses, my operating margin. This is a very busy dashboard, love it, but it just, because it illustrates what I can get out of Intacct. You can see all my different reports, my scorecards that I can get. I've got this income trend here. I've got my cash on hand. I also have built a dashboard that's like super helpful for maybe the controller, where it just shows the balances of cash, the balance of accounts payable, and the balance of accounts receivable. Because when I was the controller of a publishing company here in Connecticut, that took me half an hour to figure out, right? I had to go to the bank, see what I had in the cash account, then I had to run an accounts receivable aging, then I had to run an accounts payable aging. I can put them all on my one dashboard, and then I can see it all in one place. So I'd love to talk to you all day about Intacct, but if you want to see more, let Kimberly know, and I'd love to sit and talk to you and show you more.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. We'll go ahead and have Sean close us out.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and Mary Beth. Here's my contact info. If you guys have seen anything that you are interested in learning a little bit more about, if you have any questions about Intacct whatsoever, no matter how trivial you may think they are, please reach out. You can reach out to me. This is my contact information. You can certainly reach out to your account manager as well. They know how to get a hold of me. I've talked to them very frequently. So we just, really want to be able to help you, start the conversation about Intacct, help you evaluate whether or not it's going to be something that's a good fit for your business, and really evaluate whether it's something to help take you guys to the next level. So with that said, on behalf of Kimberly and Mary Beth and myself, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you attending, and we look forward to talking to all of you in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.